right, everyone, welcome back to episode 98 of the Hops and Bops podcast. I am always Tom.
I'm pretty much always Joe.
Most of the time. Sometimes you're not.
Yeah.
This episode, we are doing an album by O.A.R, their newest album called The Arcade. And to pair with that, we have, well, Joe has, I do not have, the Hoptical Illusion. It is I believe it's an IPA from Blue Point.
It is.
Yes. I could not find it. I went to a couple different, oh, look at that. I went to a couple different places and could not find it. They only had their toasted lager, but
I'm
Joe,
surprised. This is a year-rounder, so
yeah. But Joe can describe things so elegantly and flawlessly. He's the one that does all of our descriptions. So
wow.
I have no doubt in my mind that it'll be like I'm drinking it myself.
I try. All right, pressure's on. But yeah, so Blue Point, I'm a big fan of their toasted lager, which is pretty much their flagship. And then one of my friends was drinking this recently and they told me about it. I've heard of it. I'm pretty sure I've had it at some point, but I haven't had it in a real long time. So I was like, oh, let's bring it on here. And I got to be honest with you, the main reason why I chose it is because illusion rhymes with revolution, which is O.A.R of a revolution.
Oh.
So I got to have some sort of connection. Yeah, so this is an East Coast IPA. It's descriptive. That's a good looking beer right there.
That is nice.
Good color. Yep. Let's see. Right on the bottle, it says piney, dank, and mind-bending. It is an East Coast IPA.
Okay.
And let's see. We have the website up here.
I've got
Long
it, yeah.
Island's original IPA and many drinkers' first IPA, Optical Illusion's malt-forward body and piney hop kick have landed it 4 notable awards, including a GABF medal, a GABFA. Don't know what that is.
I will look into that right now.
Sweet. We have 7% ABV, a little higher percentage there. Mm-hmm. Nice. 70 IBU. And let's enjoy it. Cheers. Sorry, Tom. I really wish you could have gotten this one, but
I'm jealous. It's all right. GABF, by the way, stands for the Great American Beer Festival. It is a yearly thing they do up in Denver.
That sounds pretty accurate. That is a.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we guessed it because that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
This is good.
I guess good. The winner this year was from a brewery in Westlake Village in California called Meat Sweats. That won the gold.
Meat Sweats. Yes.
Which is a great name. I love that name.
Meat Sweats are never good.
Yes. But I don't know what year they won it in, but regardless, seems like a coveted award. Looks like it's pretty bitter. 70, I think, is a pretty high-ish number.
It is. It's definitely not like a New England IPA, which is odd because us being beer explorers and not beer masters, I've never really heard of an East Coast IPA. I immediately jumped towards a New England IPA. This I kind of classify under what I usually have as a West Coast IPA. It's definitely piney, more like it's more hoppy, less juicy, less citrusy. But this is really good. It's very smooth drinker.
Okay. I would assume they would just call it because they're from Long Island, it said, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I would assume that they would just say they can't say a New England style IPA because they're not in New England.
Very true.
So that's what I would have assumed. But I guess if it tastes more like a West Coast, then it's probably its own different thing.
Let's see. West Coast IPAs are dry and have an aggressive bitterness. An East Coast IPA is sweeter on the front end, which fades into bitterness thanks to the hops. That is very accurate. Huh. Although East Coast IPAs and New England IPAs are not synonymous, the two beer styles often get lumped together, which is what I just did. See, we're here. We're educating each other, Tom, and we're educating all of our viewers and listeners. There you go. So
you learn as we learn.
Yes, that was a great piece of education information right there. Sweeter, definitely sweeter up front, and I can definitely taste the bitterness kind of on the back end. That's good. It's kind of like a blend of what the two coasts try to do with their beers, between
Got
like a New England style and a West Coast. That is really flavorful. I like that a lot.
a harmonious union, if you will.
Mm.
Good.
Yes.
They also, looking at their lineup, they have a pinstripe pills with the Yankees logo plastered right on top of it.
I have
So
seen that. Yes.
a
That's
classic.
cool. They recently just went through like a rebrand. I'm a big
Mhm.
fan of their new logo. It's just very simple with the slash going through it, and their cans and their label designs are much bolder now. Um, so big fan of that.
I
Um,
agree.
I wish they explained what hops are in this.
I'm
Um,
sure I could do a little bit of digging.
all
If you're
right.
the one describing, I will be the boy at the research desk doing
I
his
know we need
stuff.
that third body. I know we got to get back together. This is tough. We're doing our best here.
We are.
Um, yeah, but their toasted lager is a classic, and this one apparently is very popular as well.
Ooh, there's a description on Target.com about Hoptical Illusion that's pretty lengthy.
Oh, well then.
What you are seeing is a hop lover's dream. Meet Blue Point's East Coast IPA, Hoptical Illusion. It's said that ancient Egyptians stuffed their pillows with fresh hops as they believed the aroma would bring on intense, vivid dreams. In honor of that tradition, we select only the freshest hops for Hoptical Illusion, including a rare one we hand-selected from a small farm in Oregon. You might not have vivid dreams while enjoying this brew, but it surely will enlighten your taste buds. To brew this award-winning IPA, we use a collection of unique hops hand-selected by our brewers and add them 5 different ways. Adding it 5 ways allows the essence of the hop to really shine through and give Hoptical Illusion its signature resiny citrus burst punch. From aroma to first sip, this beer is sure to be one of your new favorites. Still does not say the
What
hops.
mystery hops? They will not reveal.
Apparently it's a rare one hand selected from Oregon. So
Yeah,
the mysterious like haze around this drink is something that of legend, I guess.
yeah, right, right. But really great beer, solid. Try and find it maybe in like make your own 6-pack section, Tom. Now,
Maybe, yeah,
if you
yeah.
want to try it.
I'm assuming if they are a bit closer to Long Island or if that's where they operate out of, have a bit of an affinity with New York, you're a
Yeah,
bit closer that direction than I am. So maybe
true.
it's just a little bit more locally better for you. But
That could be it.
either way, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I'm enjoying sipping on that as
Ooh,
we transition into our album of choice for this episode, which is called The Arcade. It is the 2022 latest release from O.A.R, which stands for Of a Revolution. They're kind of like if Dave Matthews was a little more poppy and a little more reggae. That's what
okay.
O.A.R is kind of to me. So the reason why I chose this is I'm actually seeing them next week. Um,
Okay.
yes. So by the time this episode drops, I think I would have already seen them. But really excited going with some friends from my home area, and my buddy Andrew is a big fan of them, has been for a long time, and I just never really like listened to a lot of their stuff. I knew a few of their big songs, but over the last couple of weeks, I kind of did almost a full like discography listen,
Hmm.
trying to prepare for the concert, and I really dig them. They're really cool. They're very polished as each album went on. Their early stuff's kind of raw. They're kind of known for, well, first they're known for their live performances. They're a great live band, and I've heard some of their live albums, and they're fantastic. They jam for like a long time, but they're like solid jams. They're not like boring jams. Like I can't do jams all the time. Like Fish and Grateful Dead. Like it's just not
Yeah.
my thing. It gets kind of monotonous and boring. Like this is just like musical, like chops, like showing off their grooves and their riffs and stuff. They're really good. But when they got their start, they were also known for just people sharing their music online. when they first came out, that's when like college, like LimeWire was really popular. So they were a huge college band. They immediately got attention from people in college at that time, which I would say was in the like early 2000s.
Yeah.
So you're talking people that are, maybe in their like early 40s right now. This was a big band for them. Um, and then ever since then, they kind of got a little more commercialized. Um, they're they have horns. I actually feel like many of their popular albums don't showcase the horns as much, which is kind of a knock for me. I really like when the full band is going at it. Um, and I felt like this album would be good to cover because it's their latest, and I feel like it's kind of a return to form for them. This album and then the previous album they put out kind of returned to their kind of jammy, less like poppy mainstream radio sound. Um, but this album, it is 10 tracks and it is 32 minutes long. It is quick. It's an easy listen. I like it a lot. It's really good. And I think it takes the best of what they were and then the best of the commercial success that they achieved and mashed it together. And seems like it's kind of ushering in like a new era for them, like their next era now that they've established themselves commercially.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my take. I'm not really an expert on the band. I'm getting there. I like a lot that I've heard, but I was a really big fan of this album and then the one that came out before it. But I chose to do this one.
Yeah, I'm not much of an expert either. I didn't realize they were a band until what, a couple days ago.
Mhm.
And it seems like they've been doing like decent numbers throughout much of their career. Like all of their top songs have like 20 million streams. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
they have a following, they have a presence, and especially an internet presence. I'm just looking at their Wikipedia. They didn't really like do any advertising or marketing plans. They just kind of relied solely on like word of mouth and touring alone. So
Exactly. And that's kind
interesting.
of their MO. Like that's who they were at the very beginning. It was all
Hmm.
word of mouth. And then I noticed this album, the one before it, were um, released through, I think it's called like Black Rock Records or something like that. And Black Rock is one of their early, like really big songs. So I feel like they're kind of like self-producing, self-label right now. They're not really going through
Hmm.
a big label company anymore, um, which is probably working well for them.
Yeah.
Um,
And it looks like that's sorry to interrupt you, but it looks like it's
no, it's
something
fine.
pretty interesting. Three of the four band members attended one semester at the Alexander Muss High School in Israel.
Mhm.
And then they moved to Columbus, Ohio, and went to OSU all together, and then met
Yep.
the drummer, or no, as
Yep.
the saxophonist.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And in 2006 they like sold out Madison Square Garden,
Hmm.
which earned them a review in the New York Times, and that just skyrocketed them even further. And then I think
Yeah.
what 2008 was their like biggest like time, because they put out their album what, All Sides, and which has like
Yeah.
their
All
biggest
Sides
song
was
on
a
it.
really big album by them. It was, you know, I think down the road, I have a couple other albums I'd like to do on the podcast by
Sure.
them, but I just felt like this was a good like snapshot of their kind of two differing styles meshed together. Yeah, 2008, All Sides was a big album for them, and then another big album from them was Stories of a Stranger in 2005. That had the song called Love and Memories. If you listen to that, you probably recognize it. Ooh, sneak preview.
Oh, sorry. You weren't supposed to see
um,
that.
yeah, so I remember that time, that's when they really exploded commercially. So hence the selling out of Madison Square Garden.
Mhm.
They're actually the show I'm seeing, they're touring with Dispatch right now. I don't know if you've heard of Dispatch
I have
before.
heard of Dispatch, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not as into them. I'm
No,
more into O.A.R for sure. So I'm looking forward to it.
cool. Yeah. I know when I first turned this album on, I was like, God damn it, he did another freaking reggae album. But like,
I know.
And that's nothing against you. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum or anything. It's just like,
I know,
you know,
and I thought of that obviously because I know you're not a big fan of it. This I feel like is a more, they don't always sound like this, first of
no, yeah.
all.
And as you get into it, it doesn't really play a prevalent role. I mean, it
Exactly.
does. It's like, oh, with a reggae flair, like a twist or whatever. I feel
Right.
like in the beginning, like the first like handful of tracks are pretty heavy on the reggae side.
Yeah. And they're not even really a reggae band. That's just kind of the style they pull from. They take elements from it and put it in their music. They're definitely more of a mainstream kind of pop rock band
Hmm.
that has those elements in it, which is why I chose it. I was like, well, if Tom doesn't like the extreme stuff, then maybe he'll like this. Um, but yeah, no, I'm curious to hear what you think, and I'm excited to talk about the tracks. Um,
Yeah,
so shall we?
we shall.
Let's do it. The arcade. So it starts off with this track called "You Don't Have to Say Goodbye." Um, Decent opening track, and you can hear it. It's polished and it has the upbeat on guitar like reggae, but lyrically it's not always about like sitting on a beach smoking pot, getting high. It's not always about that. It's kind of like it's just a pop version of it. I don't know.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I like the line that kind of leads into the title. It's all right.
Yeah.
You can say goodnight, but we don't have to say goodbye. I thought that
Hmm.
was kind of a cool way to tie it in.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of the opener though, because it's just kind of reggae with like a pop twist. Like I can understand now that you're talking about the Dave Matthews comparison.
Hmm.
It's like Dave Matthews if he was a little bit poppier and a little bit reggae-er, which I think sums this track up like perfectly. I think later down the line they like are pop with a reggae twist,
Hmm.
which I will get into when we get there. But um I don't like I said this before on the first reggae album we did, which was Revolution, I think.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I mess heavy with like classic standard reggae, like Bob Marley and all of those kind of sounds and styles. Like
yeah.
I'll listen to those all the time. I don't know if I'd seek them out necessarily, but like I can definitely understand like the format of standard reggae, but all these like little twists with everything else like that try to make it more to a mainstream audience, like it just never really stuck with me.
Not,
So
yeah, not a fan of that. I get
no,
it. Yeah.
it's still like listenable, like it still has qualities to it that I'm not gonna like immediately turn it off and be like, what the fuck is this? Like I
Mhm.
still enjoy it. Well, maybe not like enjoy it enough to put it on in my free time, but while it's on, like I'm not gonna be too upset at it. So I thought it was a decent opener though. I, I
Mhm.
I thought it was okay.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. It takes a while for the song to get going, but I think the
A little
main
bit.
hook is pretty good. Um, However, the next song, I personally am a big fan of the next song, Inside Out. Um, I love when bands just start the track like together right away,
Hmm.
boom,
I
and
agree.
you can immediately hear what the hook is, the main riff of the song. And this does that. It really drew me in. The horns are on big display here. And I think that's really the X factor of them. Um, the horns kind of got lost in a lot of their music in the mid 2000s and 2010s. Even the album before this, you probably won't even like it. It's like really reggae sounding without horns. I like it, but this I thought was a better representation of who they are as a band. Um, but this is a really solid track. It has every instrument is clear to hear, and the chorus is really catchy. Um, and again, just the horns, I think, is the X factor of this song and them as a whole.
I agree. I know I just talked a bunch of shit on, reggae in general, but what you said was you kind of nailed it. Like they all come in together. You kind of establish a hook to keep you going right at the beginning. And the horns play well together. Everything seems a bit more bouncy and fun. Just
Hmm.
the general vibe on the track is what you kind of want to hear in a reggae song, something that's a bit
Exactly.
more chill, a bit more laid back. And that's not to say you can't have serious topics in your lyrics or whatever it is, but
Hmm.
it just felt like everyone was having a bit more fun with it. And it's just easier to kind of bob your head to
Exactly.
than the opener for me.
Agreed. And something I like about them is, as we all know, I'm not always listening to the lyrics, but I immediately can tell that their lyrical content isn't always the run of the mill generic, reggae topics, kind of like country always talking about the dirt road and mud flaps and Coors Light. Like reggae is always talking about sitting on a beach, smoking a spliff and all that. Like sometimes that gets old for me, but I like the music, the instrumentals.
Yeah.
This takes, I think, the best of what reggae offers, mixes it with their kind of jam band slash pop vibe, and then offers a more mainstream lens lyrically. And I think more people can relate to it than just a strictly, reggae band like Dirty Heads.
Yeah. I thought it was the opposite of the first track, where the first track had not fantastic music but pretty good lyrics. This one
Mhm.
has pretty good music but not great lyrics.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
the title is called Inside Out, and then the kind of hook that brings it back is, if you think you're nothing, you got it inside out. Go take something, turn it upside down. That's just like, what does
Yeah.
that mean?
Not,
Pretty
yeah, not really
generic.
thought provoking, but
But the music's good though, which is, I guess, more important than that. So
agreed.
I do
Yeah.
agree.
Um, and then we move on to the third track. It's called In the Clouds.
Ooh, this is the first one where, if you're on Spotify, it has that little like video that plays in the
Yeah,
background.
yep.
Kind of cool looking.
So I think there's not like a lot, yeah, there's not a lot written, especially on Wikipedia, our go-to, about this album, but I did kind of gather that I think this was the second single
I
on this
can look
album.
that up right now.
And I believe the first single was Alive, which is later in the album.
I think you're right,
Mhm.
because yeah, Light Switch Sky was not on this album. Yeah, so it's just In the Clouds and Alive were the two singles.
Yeah. Okay.
I like the song. I thought the
Yeah,
song
me
kind
too.
of was in the same vein as that last one. A bit more dreamier, which makes sense because it's in the clouds.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, pretty again, that vibe that it gives off, it's a little bit more laid back, but can still kind of go through some lyrics that aren't as laid back as it is.
Yeah. Vocally, the singer, I
Yes.
can't remember the name, but vocally, big like train vibes, especially when he goes high in the chorus.
Mark Roberge.
Yeah, he sounds like, what's his name, Pat Monahan from Train. Um, I think they
Okay.
sound similar a lot of times anyway. Oh, wait, I don't know. They're just kind of like a big melting pot of like Dave Matthews Band, Train, a little bit of like, I don't know, maybe like Maroon 5 and like just some reggae
I
stylings.
Yeah, so my comparisons were Maroon 5, but also I got very heavy like Imagine Dragons feel on the back half.
Okay,
Like
okay, yeah.
if Imagine Dragons had like a reggae twist, that was strange. We'll get there obviously, but
Yeah.
those are my kind of comparisons. But
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, this is a pretty
Um,
decent track though. I like
yeah,
this
it's
one.
good. It's not my favorite. I could tell why they chose it as a single, but I'm
Hmm.
honestly surprised that they didn't choose Inside Out as a single. I just think that's a great representation of who they are, especially someone like me who's just getting into them and, you know, who knows where I'm going to start in the discography. If I started with a new album just to see what's up, this I think is a great representation of like their early
Okay.
stuff.
I mean, yeah, we did something similar with the last artist we did, Joey Harcum, where
Mhm.
the album that I was introduced to and Mike was kind of this solo acoustic performance. And then I went back and listened to his other ones, and they're like full band rock, pretty heavy, and like,
Yeah.
so sometimes maybe that first listen or whatever it is isn't always the best representation. But if you say that this is kind of the vibe that they have for a lot of their other stuff, then interesting.
For sure. I would say pre 2005, it's very similar to this, except way less polished. Like their early stuff is raw, like one take, cheap
Hmm.
production. But like that, a few of those songs that came out during that time are their biggest. Like probably their biggest song is that was a crazy game of poker. I don't know if you ever heard that song before, but definitely listen to that song. Um, the second half of that song is just made for live shows. And there's this one part where they say, how about a revolution? And then you could hear the whole arena sing it during their live albums. And it's just really awesome. You can tell that like they were a word of mouth band and everyone's kind of sharing their moment. Like, hey, I found this band through my roommate, or, you know, my friend down the hall like shared it with me, like before social
Mm,
media, before streaming and all that. You could just tell like it has that vibe, which is really cool. But now like they're way more polished now for sure.
yeah.
Um, but anyway, anything else about In the Clouds?
No, I think you nailed it.
Cool. Nightlight is next.
I wasn't a huge fan of Nightlight. This almost has a bit too much polish to the point where it's a little like overproduced, even though it's kind
Mhm.
of in the same vein. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just sounded a bit too like mixed with reggae. I like when they had a little bit more of like that, not really like rock, but a bit more guitar, a bit more body to it than some of the other poppier tracks do. This one sounds like it's a bit like overproduced, like I was saying before, where maybe 10 writers were on it and they're all trying to battle into doing everything. It just kind of mellows itself out at the end, but it
I
was
feel
okay.
pretty much the same.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't my favorite.
this is also single quality. I'm surprised it didn't. If you think of what a single is and what kind of songs do well as a single, um, I mean, this could have been performed by Jonas Brothers or um, any pop act. But I agree with you. It's lacking the body. It's lacking the drums. I mean,
Yeah,
God, I'm just constantly going back to Inside Out,
yeah.
and there's a lot of synth in this, a lot of electronics, and not as much horns, not as much guitars.
Hmm.
So this kind of is the new age of who they are, the more pop end.
This is like gentrified reggae. Like, if you played this to someone in Jamaica, they would get very mad at you.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't even classify this much as like a reggae song. It's lacking that like upbeat on the guitar. Um,
Yeah,
but
it's almost like electronic reggae, in a sense, where
yeah,
you've got
yeah,
like those like stiff drums, you have like these like risers that go right before the chorus. Those it
yeah.
just it's strange.
This could be like an Imagine Dragons song. I can see that, like that,
Yeah, like a
just
deep cut.
that late 2010s rock, like what everyone thinks rock music is, and meanwhile, like John Bonham and Neil Peart and they're all rolling over in their grave.
I
That's
don't think
wrong.
it's that like upsetting. It's just like doesn't really give you that same vibe that some of the other tracks gave you.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. But next is
Yeah.
Nowhere Else I'd Rather Be.
Yeah. This one
So
had a bit of a weirder like vocal delivery. It was like, I looked into the bathroom to the windows and glasses. It wasn't
that's
as
him. He
like
does that a
smooth.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
This was just a meh cut for me. Like, it was okay. Nothing
Mhm,
really too glamorous or noteworthy to put out there.
mhm,
I like the vocal delivery a little. I like when he gets on that higher train inspired vocal presentation,
mhm.
but that's the only thing I'd say on it.
Okay. Yeah, I think definitely, polished again. Um,
Yes.
the horns are more like subdued in the background and not really the forefront. Um, I
Mhm.
and then it has those like like dreamy every like
Millennial pop.
pop, yeah, yeah, every pop song now has like a half chorus with
Whoa, oh,
gibberish
oh,
because
oh.
that's what everyone, yeah, that's what everyone can sing along to. I think I do like this song better than Nightlight. Um, you can tell that they probably jam this one out live a little more. If they do play it live, we'll see. Um, but I don't hate it. It's just, kind
Yeah.
of middle of the road for me in
Yeah,
the
the only
track.
thing really noteworthy for me was like the falsetto vocals, which
Mhm,
was the only like okay thing on the chorus, but still
mhm.
kind of a weird delivery on the verses.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's him. He does that a lot. But
I mean, yeah, and that's fine if that's your thing, but it just wasn't for me.
sounds good. Fair enough.
I did like Chicago though. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that track. It had a lot of diversity in its instrumental choices. There was a piano, the
Mhm.
horns were allowed to shine a little bit more. I think there was some guitar in there as well. Just a lot more of instruments to play around with. So yeah.
I agree. It has a very catchy chorus. Um, kind of like I'm trying to like pretty soulful. It's a pretty soulful chorus, especially
Yeah.
the vocal line, the melody. Um, yeah, it's kind of like almost like yeah, soul like big band sounding. Um, yeah, I like this one after the last couple like really poppy ones. This one has the polished pop elements, but with multi instruments. Like you said, the piano's brought in as well.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like background vocals in there as well that I
Mhm.
think add quite a bit, kind of going back and forth with the horns provides like this kind of block party sound of everyone just kind of coming together, banging on
Mm,
trash can lids or whatever, just to
yeah,
create this song. It's kind of a cool vibe. It's like
yeah, I
you're
like that.
in
Yeah,
like you're in Chicago, or like it's a setting based song that really brings you to that location. And I think that kind of achieves what it was
yeah,
going for.
yeah. You can kind of see everyone like coming out like from their like stoops or front porches,
Uh-huh.
and like yeah, and then like everyone's dancing and yeah, everyone's dancing in the street like doing this big like show number.
Yeah, well, that's something that's really important with reggae is the feel and the vibe that it gives off. Where I feel like there's a lot of, let's, for example, rap that's just kind of the scapegoat. That I would say like 75% of all rap is just kind of made just to be in the background while you're scrolling Twitter or playing Xbox or something. But
Mhm.
listening to reggae, the feel and the vibe of what you're getting is almost the forefront of the genre. And I feel
Yeah,
like tracks like these are some of the shining examples as to why that can be, achieved on some of these records. So I liked it.
that was very diplomatic of you. Someone who's not big into that genre is able to pull out some sort of positive and respect it.
I'm Tom Atkins, and I approve this message.
Hey, um, it's funny though. Like if you listen to more of their albums, they're not a reggae band. Like
No.
they're just pulling elements from it. But that's why I like them so much because they're very diversified in their sound. They can do a lot. They can jam, kind of like Dave Matthews would. They could have those reggae elements like those newer kind of reggae bands have. They have the pop elements. They have the rock elements. All that. So they're a good band. I'm kind of bummed they're not bigger than they are, but um,
Mhm.
what are you gonna do? Next up is Over My Head.
However, I will not give nearly the same praise as I would on this song. I did not like Over My Head.
Yeah,
This
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 one.
one is where it kind of transitions over to Imagine Dragons. Almost like this song reminds me of you ever heard that song Story of My Life by I think it's One Direction? Story
Yes.
of my life, I take her home.
Wow.
It's this one reminds me of that heavy.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. It sounds
And
just like that. Yeah.
yeah, like this song is fine. Like if you're at the mall and you're shopping at H&M and you hear this song come over the loudspeakers, like it's fine. But like to hear on a record, it's just like I don't want. This is a skip all day for me.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely, corny pop, mom pop, and it has that pop build,
Yeah, it's like trying to be inspirational. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, like
you could do anything.
Yeah, the arena, holding up the cell phone lights and everything
It's
during
not
the
lighters
song.
anymore.
Um, yeah, 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 right. Um, I see. I like the album as a whole, so I don't hate this song, but I definitely throw this in kind of the lower tier for sure. It doesn't show off who they are as a band, like
And
musically.
it's so different from what the rest of the album was. Like this
Hmm.
has no reggae aspects to it. This is just purely to be on like some like serious station that you're never going to listen to again. Like you skip past it.
Right, which is interesting because you're kind of jumping into them with their latest album. I wouldn't say this song sounds like their early stuff, but if you listen to that, Stories of a Stranger album or the
Hmm.
All Sides album, they're definitely more on the poppy end and less on the reggae end. So I'm curious to think or hear what you think if you ever give those a shot. Maybe I'll bring one
Yeah.
later if you, jump into them. Um, but which is why I chose this album because it's almost kind of a culmination of their sounds, that they've showcased throughout their career so far.
Yeah. And I mean, we've done that with a couple artists before
Mhm,
too. So yeah, maybe down the line that would be interesting to kind of listen to some of the other stuff. But if
mhm.
it's like this track, then I will not be enjoying it.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Okay.
There's more up tempo stuff for sure, but what I'm saying is the less on the reggae end.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What in the world is
What
this
in the
next
world?
track?
It is.
It's a bit more rocky.
Yep.
This is where like the Imagine Dragons sound kind of picks up for me,
Hmm.
which is fine. But if that's your thing, but I
Yeah.
don't know. It just feels like this weird like tone switch. Like they just kind of, no, we're not doing that anymore. It's like they stitched two albums together almost.
Yeah. I again, if you
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
had some more context, maybe I
Hmm.
should have chosen
This
an
this
earlier
track
album
is,
to start
yeah,
with.
I like this track better than Over My Head though, if that's any kind of
Yeah.
consolation. Bit more upbeat, has a bit more of a up and down kind of energy shift than the other one
Mhm.
did, but
See,
yeah.
like this chorus, I love this chorus. It's like we all just
Hmm.
fade. Um, the horns come in on those accents, and the drums are just less electronified. Oh yeah, the horns in that like post-chorus section. This is who they are. This is like jammy. It's not
I
really
like this track.
reggae. It's more jam band.
It's
Uh,
almost like Wolfpack. Have you ever heard of them?
I
They,
have, yeah.
yeah,
Mike and I
they,
just saw them at Levitate. He did not
yeah,
like them. I
Wolfpack
like them.
really.
I
Okay.
appreciate them. Yeah. Yeah.
They have a lot of like cult followers.
Yes,
And
they
I'm
do.
not I'm not crazy into them like some of them, but kind of
Yeah.
reminds me of some of their stuff.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, no, I I do like this song. I'd say that I think the verse structure doesn't really match the chorus structure. I think the verse kind of sounds a little more empty than what the chorus is.
Hmm.
So doesn't really do a good job setting up what the chorus is. And then got a nice little horn solo after the second chorus.
Yep, I'll just
Um,
hit that.
yeah. Um, yeah, this is a great jam. This is a good song. I'm looking
Yeah,
at it.
yeah. I'm just saying from like an outsider's perspective, someone who hasn't been accustomed to what they put out, it was just a very sudden shift to like, oh, well, we're not doing that anymore. But it's
Yeah, for
still
sure.
a good song. I thought this track was still pretty decent. It was just
Hmm.
tone shift, which is
Hmm.
fine. But
It's kind of like for me anyway, if they took this song and like earlier Inside Out and made wish they have an album of just those kinds of songs where it's a band, the drums aren't electric and less like synthy effects. I just want to hear a band play. And
yeah,
this one really kicks in after that first verse.
yeah, you just get a random guitar solo at the end. That's actually pretty good. Like
Yeah,
I'm pretty happy with it. So
yeah,
yeah, just kind of a return to their original sound, I guess.
hmm for sure.
Yeah.
Right. So it's bringing in that older element from them.
Yep.
Um, next up is Alive, which I
Alive.
believe was the lead single off the album.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right.
Mhm.
Kind of goes back into reggae a little bit, kind of got a
Yeah,
the
that
offbeat or
that
the
up,
upbeat, yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's got like,
Super short too.
yeah, it's only 2.5 minutes. I think that's the shortest. Yeah, it's the shortest on the album.
Mhm. I wonder if they're trying to get into that genre a little more heavy.
Oh yeah, this
Um,
is purely reggae.
yeah, right. Like I can hear this song on I'm a big fan of Dirty Head's Cabin by the Sea album, and I can totally hear this on that.
Hmm.
Um, so
Smoke them if you got them. Crack another bottle.
yeah, right.
Don't you let it slip away. Call them if you miss them. Love them when you kiss them. Don't you wait another day. That's reggae, baby.
Yeah, but it's like clean. It's like polished. It's like commercialized. It's not
Yeah,
like
yeah.
straight up reggae content.
Yeah, it's not like a guy playing on the side of a road just by himself. It's like 20 producers, kind of
Yeah,
formulated reggae sound. It's decent. I'm not really knocking it. It's just like not incredibly memorable for me.
yeah. Um, yeah, this one, yeah, it leans way into reggae, which I'm not complaining about it, but if you're gonna do that, then you can't have like the bubblegum pop lyrics.
Yeah.
Like just talk about smoking then. Like you can't like, I don't know. It's like you're trying to be that, but you don't
Yeah.
want to be too explicit.
It's like instead of G, it's PG.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Oh,
Yeah. But I didn't mind. I thought it was a good jam. It was
yeah, it
short.
was fine.
Um, I thought it could have been a little more beefed up, but
A little bit more well thought out.
yeah. And then we have the last track,
Life
Life
in
in
the
the Big
big
City.
city.
Um, this one really caught my ear lyrically. Um, I don't know if they reference this kid Billy, this guy Billy,
Hmm.
that you learn pretty early on was just like shot in the streets of a big city and died. And it's from the perspective of maybe a friend who didn't get a good chance to say goodbye. I guess the bigger message is like you just never know um, when the end is here, and unfortunately they kind of like generalize it. I think the chorus ends like, well, that's how life in the big city goes, or something like that. And
Hmm.
um, kind of how we've become so numb to these things that happen, um, too regularly. Um, but I thought it was a really good way to end the album. I really like this song. Um, but again, I don't know if Billy is an actual person or a character they created to kind of represent where we are right now.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I appreciate them trying to tackle something bigger in the lyrics, and they definitely did achieve that. So props to them.
Hmm.
In terms of the music, I wasn't really blown away. Just kind of
Hmm.
breezy, kind of airyish.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, that's kind of the standard closer track, trying to bring everyone together and sum up everything that's happened so far. And um, I don't know. I wasn't crazy about it, but I understand why it needed to be in that position.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't really have too much other than that to say about it.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Um, I do like, this one leans more into the sound of Inside Out, and
Hmm.
what are the other ones?
This one wasn't
Around the World.
incredibly like reggae-ish though.
Right.
It had like a
And
guitar solo halfway
mhm,
through, another one of those. So it was like over my head, what in the world, and live life in the big city, even Chicago to an extent, like those tracks weren't like, other than Alive, like the second half of the album is like not reggae inspired at all,
right. Which is
which is
why I think I kind of like this album a lot, because it took their best elements and put it all on one album.
Yeah.
now that I've listened to, a bunch of their older stuff.
Ooh, I forgot about the sax solo at the end too.
Yes, this is that solo. I just hit it myself, and straight up Dave Matthews. I
Yeah.
mean, that is just straight Leroy Moore, or Leroy. I forget how you say his name, but
Why do you know the
definitely.
Why do you know the name of the saxophone artist
I don't know.
from Dave Matthews Band?
I'm not a big Dave Matthews Band fan, but I just know they're like members.
Okay.
And he also died too. I remember that was a big
Oh,
deal.
okay.
Yeah. He was in like a
Can
quad
imagine.
accident and like passed away from complications from the accident. Um, so I just remember that. But he played that, like, wasn't really a sax, it was more of a, I don't even know what he played. Let me look it up
Yeah.
what when he played.
Either way, it was just kind of a generic ender, and it wasn't really the best. But I do like those two solos. At the very least, kind of giving those instruments a spot to shine, I think was at least somewhat worthwhile,
Mhm.
But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Um,
and that is the end of the album.
that is very quick. It's just over a half hour, 10
Hmm.
tracks. So, if you're looking for a quick listen and kind of like a best of the best from them, at least sonically, um, this album kind of has it.
There
It
you
hits
go.
on what they do. Cool.
Why don't we jump into some tracks?
Sure. Let's
I,
do
I
it.
think that might be the best.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed.
If you were to
Top
give me a top track, then what should it be?
top track. I got to be honest. The two singles just don't do anything for me. They're kind of middle of the road for me.
Hmm.
I'm going Inside Out. I mean, that track, the track two, grabbed me right away. I think it does a great job of combining their reggae elements, which I'm getting into, plus their jammy elements, plus their horn and full drum sound elements all together in a song. Great song. That's my top track, Inside Out.
Yeah, I would go with Chicago as my top track.
Cool,
I
very
think
cool.
it just blended everything very well together. And you kind of when you put it down on paper, it's like, oh, okay, horns and reggae and guitar and all these other kind of different elements to it shouldn't really amount to not much more than an okay track. But I thought it was pretty good. It's like I said before, it has that element to it that makes it sound like you're at a block party and everyone's kind of coming together to create some music. And I think that's a cool environment to be in. And it not being a standout track, I think is a good little gem to find when you're halfway through the album. So
Yeah,
yeah, I like that one. I thought that was pretty good.
good find. Okay.
Yeah.
How about your bottom track?
My bottom track. Okay. I would go with Over My Head. Just very I think part of it too was it switch like that switch like I was talking about before, where just stripped any kind of reggae element to it and was just kind of a boring, like overproduced, over dramatic, like soft rock song. Like it just did nothing for me. And it was just like, why did it even need to be there?
Mhm.
And yeah, it just did not cook my goose at all. Like my goose remains uncooked. It's a raw goose.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I actually agree with you on that one.
Oh, cool.
I could have, I, I would have much rather preferred a different band put out this song because it would make
Okay.
sense for a different, pop band. Like I can't get the One Direction connection out of my head, like you
I
told
know.
me, right?
Yeah.
You know, um, it's a good ballad, but I think for them, they leaned too much into the polished, produced pop sound for this. Wish they kind of threw the rest of the band in there and showcase it, make a more, robust sound. Um,
Hmm.
so I agree with
Robust.
you on that.
I like
Robust.
it.
Yeah.
Mhm. Now, Joe, if you were to
Yeah.
pick a sleeper or a dark horse, combine the two and name it a sleepy dark horse, then what would it be and why? In
This
50
is
words or
tough.
less.
This is tough.
Due at midnight.
Oh shit. Better get going. I think I think I'm gonna have to go with two songs. I'm gonna have to do a
The Joe Side
double.
classic.
Yeah, I know it's been a while. I'm gonna go with "What in the World" and
Okay.
"Life in the Big City." I will say, "What in the World" I thought kind of took a while to get going and feel the hook and get the groove. But I thought it ended great. It had that sax solo, it had the guitar solo, and then "Life in the Big City," like we just talked about, I thought really ended the album strong on, a good message. And I think we all can relate to something in that song, whether it's just a general feeling of not appreciating the moment we're in. And I thought musically, the song was cool too. It kind of showcased more of their poppy end without a lot of the production.
Hmm.
So those are my two. Check those two songs out as well.
Nice. I would go with what you decided was your favorite song and go with Inside Out.
Oh,
Now,
okay,
not
cool.
necessarily a sleeper, just because it's the second track on the album. Like if you're listening to the album, you're probably gonna get to it.
Hmm.
But it wasn't a single, and it was probably my other favorite song. I guess you could just swap Inside Out and Chicago and get the same result, but
Yep.
I'll just go with one and two and say Inside Out. It had the kind of reggae vibes that you wanted that you didn't really get on the opener, you didn't really get on some of the other cuts.
Hmm.
Um, just seemed like a lot more fun. Established that hook early and then kind of stuck with it without being too repetitive, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, had a guitar solo, and I think it had a some kind of sax solo in there.
Hmm.
And it just seemed like they were having fun while they were doing it. So
Yeah, that's really a great word for it. It's a fun song.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Cool. Good.
So let's rate it.
It is
Give it a
time to
hot
rate it.
rating. Give it a steamy one.
Hot rating out of
Mm,
10.
mm.
Um,
Joseph, please give
I,
me a number.
I like this album for the varying styles. It showcases what they can do as a band. And for someone like me who is jumping in, head first, preparing for a concert in a week, um, this kind of gave me, ooh, I want to explore like that sound a little more from them, or this sound a little more from them, then I can kind of go backwards. Um, and I like this album because it is shorter. Not that I'm like, Mike really loves his like short albums and stuff like that. I don't
Hmm.
really need that per se, but I do like that they kept this diverse album short. So it's kind of like a quick hit of them, who they are right now. Boom, boom, boom.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I can listen to this album, top to bottom, and experience and feel the ebbs and flows. So I'm gonna give this a 7. I'm giving this 7 out of
All
10
right.
bops. The Arcade by O.A.R.
Okay.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. I am not as high as Joe was, but I think I'm gonna go right down the middle. I'm gonna give it a 5. I think I liked probably about half the tracks. I think half the tracks were standout, noteworthy tracks.
Mhm.
Um, you know, reggae is just not really my wheelhouse, even though they're not necessarily a reggae album or a reggae band, but this was a reggae influenced album, I guess.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I also really haven't, I mean, I've listened to it probably about 3, 4 times all the way through. Maybe with repeated listens, I get more of an understanding, but um, yeah, I'd say maybe, Inside Out I really liked, In the Clouds was good, Nowhere Else I'd Rather Be, Chicago, and What in the World. I think 5 out of 10 I thought were pretty good. Yeah,
Mhm.
let's say about a 5.
I
Makes
mean, knowing
sense.
you, I'd say that's pretty fair. I think that is a tad higher than
Oh,
I thought you would rate it, because I don't know how you necessarily feel about like the poppy end of things too,
it was
Um,
it was interesting to kind of have a little bit of a twist, maybe not have
mhm.
it too regiment into one lane, but
Mhm. Mhm.
um, yeah,
Cool. Okay. And then we have Optical Illusion from Blue Point.
another 10 for me.
Tom has
10 for the spring water.
10 out of 10 spring water from Big Y. Um, I really like this beer. It kind of like the album does, this beer kind of takes the best of what a West Coast IPA has and a New England IPA, which I really love, and it blends the two, and there's your East Coast IPA. So this actually ended up being a great pairing on my end for the episode. Not to
Oh,
toot
good.
my own
No,
horn,
okay.
but it worked out. I'm going to give this a 7 as well. It's very drinkable. It's very flavorful. It is not overly hoppy and it's not overly juicy. It's not, a lot of the West Coast IPAs are very, very like piney and floral. This has that, but it doesn't last. It doesn't hang around too long. It also has that sweet flavor to it too. So this is a really great beer. I highly recommend people checking this out. Tom, if you see this too, go pick some up. But
I just might.
I'm gonna give it a 7 from Blue Point.
Nice. Look at
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, look at that.
All right, let's give them some shouts out.
Let's do the shouts. First up for the beer. Again, we have Blue Point, looking up their Instagram right now.
Their website is bluepointbrewing.com, if you're wondering.
And their Instagram is Blue Point Brewing. So go check them out. You know, they have a lot of cool beers. And then we have O.A.R. of a Revolution. That's their Instagram handle, of a Revolution.
Oh.
And their website is, I believe,
Live at O.A.R.
Yeah, is it live or live? I don't know what it is, but liveoar.com. On tour now.
Livior.
Yeah, lots to offer, really. I've listened to a lot of their albums, and each one kind of has a different spin to it. So, you know, if you liked something from an album, give some other stuff a shot, because they really are a versatile band, and I'm really excited to see them live. So yeah, there you go.
Nice.
Yeah. So Tom, you're up next, episode 99.
Holy shit, episode 99. It's going to be
Yep.
me. We're doing another album that has a circle in the album cover. We're doing Hello Exile by the Menzingers, their 2019 album. Look at that. Just a beautiful phone screen. Discovered them in college from my good friend Andrew 𝙃𝙤𝙥𝙪𝙨𝙞𝙀. Going to be a very interesting album and a very interesting drink. You may have seen me sipping on it already in the episode. Didn't want to give it away already, but it's the Arnold Palmer spiked half and half iced tea lemonade. It's got real juice and select teas as well. So
very good.
Can't wait to listen to this album and drink that drink.
Same here. I'm excited. And I'm also curious to hear your take on the Arnold Palmer and comparing it to the Surfside.
That's right. Yes.
I know you guys just did that last episode. I wasn't able to be on it, but I know Mike loves that. And I didn't listen to the episode yet, but I don't know how you rated it or felt about it.
They were good. They're very
Yeah.
good. I gave it an 8.5, I think.
An 8.5. Okay. Wow. So I'm excited to hear how a more commercial version of that stacks up to your side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Right.
There you go. Well, that has been the Hops and Bobs podcast. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Check us out on all the socials. Check us out and listen, watch us wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for your support up until now. We are inching closer towards our 100th episode, and
excited.
You know, yeah, me too. And I for one, and really excited that we've been doing this, and lots covered and lots to offer. If you check out our backlog of episodes. So go check us out. Go check them out. For Tom, I've been Joe. We'll see you next time.
Peace.